Well, hello there and welcome back. This is episode 55 of my Minecraft 1.16 Let's Play. I've been making a lot of progress on my overworld mob switch and I'm a little bit over halfway done. There should be at least 70 zombie villagers in all of these cells down here. So it's nighttime right now. I shouldn't have any mobs spawning whatsoever because these zombie villagers are eating up the entire mob cap and they're safely contained behind glass. I have had to make a few changes along the way though. My original plan was to try and fit 25 per cell. This is 15 and they are a little crowded. I don't want them to cross over this line right here because it's actually a chunk border. So I decided to stop at 15 instead of 25 just to make sure that they don't get too overcrowded. That has meant that I've had to change it. Originally we had 6 of these and now I have 10. And it's still a little bit messy because I've got all the rails still going to all of these, but you can see these two here are full. This one is most of the way full. This one's got a few, and these ones have just one in them. I needed to make sure that each cell had at least one of them, and then these last two are actually completely full as well. So I needed to make sure each cell had at least one of them because zombies aren't going to spawn anymore now that I've gotten this far. So I put a villager in each cell, put a zombie in with them, and then they got turned. And now when I put more villages in them, they will get turned automatically. And then the ones where I'd already put a bunch of villagers in, I just threw a zombie in with them. Basically, I just got a zombie to follow me to here, and then I put a cart down, and it grabbed the zombie and put it into whatever cell I told it to. And it did not take long for these guys to get turned. Now that I've got everything set up, the process is starting to go a lot faster. However, I have had to make a number of changes. I originally had a system that I attempted to automatically put them in carts the second they came through the portal, but that didn't end up working very well, so I ripped it all out. Actually, in this portal, they just stood in the portal like forever, and you have to wait for them because if they step out of the portal and then step back in, they'll actually teleport. So as soon as they stepped out of the portal, you needed to try and grab them into a cart and get them moved along so that they didn't end up going back through the portal and then you'd basically lose them forever. So I actually ended up changing it out so that they'll actually drop down. So as soon as they step out of the portal, they drop down and they can't go back through the portal. And that helped prevent that. But then we got a big old cluster of them down here. So what I've been doing, and this works pretty well. I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, but we throw down a cart here and it grabs a villager. Sometimes it just gets stuck like that. You just throw another one down and it'll grab a villager. And these all get recycled back, right back into the same chest that I just grabbed them from. So I'm not really worried about mine carts. Just go ahead and there goes 2 more. And I've just been doing this over and over again. And it actually means that this whole queue system that I built here isn't really needed at all because they're all just queued down here. But, you know, you can fit a lot down here. And this actually is a pretty fast process. Here in my villager breeder, the only change I've made is I put a torch right here so that I don't have to press this button. So I just hit the button to call for a villager. I'm actually doing this multiple times in a row. That would be 3, and they just get sent on their way. 4, 5, 6, 7. I've been doing 7 or 8 at a time, and then the queue in the nether part side will hold 15 villagers, so I want to do half at a time, again, to make sure that they don't end up coming back through the portal. So over in the nether side, I haven't had any trouble with them staying in the portal frame. I have ripped out the minecart, auto minecart mechanism. I just push a button, but they tend to get right into the minecart, no problem, no fuss. See, that one just popped right out into the thing. Yeah. We'll deal with that in a second. And 1 or 2 of them might stay in the frame for a second, but it usually doesn't take that long for them to walk out. And then I can grab them. Yep, there's one. And I just have to wait for there he goes. No real problem here. And one of them actually did end up going back through the portal, so I'll wait for him to step out of the portal and then try and push him right back into it. It usually works pretty well. And then we'll, are you still on a timeout? Villagers, man. So one area I've continued to have problems is getting them to take a stupid job. I don't know why it needs to be so difficult. It's actually extremely frustrating. There is over 30 workstations stationed around here, and there's only 15 cells. It's just way more, and some of them have jobs and some of them don't. And I don't know why it is this way. So I've actually sent some of them on their way. So there's only about 10 villagers now. So I can pull up, let's just pull up a whole bunch of these stations and then put them back down. So we'll have something like 15 unassigned workstations. I just triggered something. Did I break a redstone? I broke a redstone, didn't I? Yeah, whatever. It's not going to cause any problems. It's fine. And then I can go through and put these all down again. So we've got 16 unassigned workstations. They should take them, but they're not. I don't know why they have to be like this. What is wrong with the code for why they take jobs and why they don't? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Sometimes it seems like you just kind of gotta like sit around and wait. I've actually been waiting over 5 minutes for this guy to take a job. And it's not like they won't take a job because they're in a minecart, because plenty of them do take jobs. Some of them don't. I do not. Oh, there he goes. Very frustrating. And this is probably the one point that takes the most amount of time, is some of them take jobs and some of them don't. So this guy I've already traded with. He's fine. And then this next guy doesn't have a job. And then now we've looped back to spawn, and I need just 2 more villagers to fill up the cell that I'm working on. So let's get 2 more sent on the way. There's 1. And send another one. There we go. And then I gotta wait for them to fall in, and then I just gotta switch which activator rail is being powered over here. And that will switch which cell that they are falling into. So I believe they fall into this one right here. We gotta wait for them to come through. There's the first one, and the second one is back there. There you go. This is supposed to have a glass block there, just to keep them from wandering out in the split second there. There we go. And then we can take that, and I think we need to do this one next. So we'll just power this one. So yeah, despite the difficulty I've had trying to get them to take jobs, this process is actually going pretty quickly. And I should be done fairly soon. And there we have it, 150 zombie villagers all sitting in these cages. I might have to do something to keep them off this lip right here, but one here isn't really going to cause any significant problems. That one's got a piston, but all the way down. And so night has fallen. So let's go ahead and flip the switch over here. These are all full. So come over here and flip the switch. That should turn the system on. And they're all going to flow this way. I've already checked to make sure that it's all working. You can see all the way down. So now they're all in spawn chunks. So if I fly away, let's go over in this distance somewhere. We just have to go far away enough that those guys aren't loaded anymore. Well, they're always going to be loaded because they're in spawn chunks. But you should notice a difference pretty soon. It's night. There's no mobs hanging out around here whatsoever. So that's pretty fantastic. So let's fly back and turn it off and do another check. Alright, so let's go ahead and turn it off. They're going to drift back over to the other side, and we'll fly back out to the same point, and we should see mobs again. And here we are coming down, and none yet, but it should be. Yep, there's creepers and skeletons. Regular amount of mobs should be. Yep, now we're starting to see a decent number of mobs now that we've sat here for a second. Mobs all over the place. So our mob switch is working. So I guess I didn't explain it really well in the last episode, and not everybody is familiar with what a mob switch is, but that right there that you saw is what the point of the mob switch is. We can turn it on or off, and by doing that we can control whether or not mobs can spawn in the overworld. This is an overworld mob switch. You need one for each dimension, and it really only works in the overworld and the nether right now. But the point is that mobs cannot spawn if we've got too many mobs already loaded. This is 150 mobs, so this will load enough mobs for 2 players to be online and no mobs to be spawned if they're all in spawn chunks. If they're not in spawn chunks, then they're not loaded and mobs will spawn normally. Sometimes you want mobs to spawn normally. You don't want all your farms to stop working or anything like that. And the reason why you do this, for the most part, is for different builds and stuff like that. So you don't have to deal with the annoyance of mobs. I know when I was building my perimeter, I just kept running into creepers just all the time, and not having to have to deal with that, it would have been really nice. I wish I had set up this before that, but it's a very nice thing to have. It's not really a necessity. The nether ones actually can be quite a bit of a necessity because you build certain things and you don't want gas blowing them up. But the overworld one is kind of more of a nice to have thing, but it's definitely very nice to have. So the next thing I want to do is finish up this nether mob switch right here. This one should actually be quite a bit easier than the overworld version because I'm already over halfway there. So we got 72 shulkers over here, 15 shulkers over here. We only need about 55 more zombie villagers to finish it up. They all count the same towards the mob cap, so it doesn't really matter. My plan was to keep these here anyways because I was skeptical when I originally heard about the whole zombie villager thing. It's new in 1.16. And I was worried that Mojang might decide that it's not something they want people creating mob switches with, and they could possibly just say, hey, zombie villagers that you've traded with, they actually just don't count towards the mob cap anymore. And that could still happen, but now that I've actually set it up in the overworld, I'm not as convinced. Originally, I was pretty certain that they would do something like that, but after actually setting one up as a mob switch, it's not as easy as it sounds. Like, it sounds like it'd be something super easy to do, and it's definitely easier than moving all these shulkers, and so I'm grateful for that, but it's not really an easy task. Like, even setting up 70 villagers to set up a mob switch in either dimension it's a lot of work, and I don't think everybody's going to be just rushing to do it. It seems like it's easy, but once you actually get down and grind it, it's kind of a lot of work, and it's enough work that I don't want to like try and get rid of all these shulkers right here and go to only zombie villagers. Yeah, I'm keeping these guys, and I'm just setting up a pin with some zombie villagers. And this being the nether, I don't have to do any fancy tricks with water like I did in the overworld or anything like that, because we don't have spawn chunks to rely on. What we've got is this chunk loader right here, and this is what keeps everything loaded in this area. And I've got a switch on it so I can turn it on, and that will actually spit items back and forth. There's another one on the other side, and it will spit items back, and that will keep these chunks loaded. So all I have to do is set up a pin right here, put 55 zombie villagers in it, and the hardest thing should be actually just getting a zombie in there with them to turn them all, and that shouldn't take much work at all. I mean, we've already got the rails set up, we already got the nether hub set up. Yeah, this should actually be a pretty easy task. Shouldn't take me too long, hopefully. After sending 150 villagers to spawn, though, I am a little bit low on villagers in my breeder here. So let's give them some more food and wait a little while for them to breed up some more. All right, and there we have it. Actually ended up putting 64 villagers in this area right here. So despite the fact that it did take a while for some of them to pick jobs, this actually didn't take very long at all. So now I just need to get a zombie in here so that they will all get turned. All right, that didn't take very long at all. I was going to talk about this area that I set up over here. And I went to go set recording, and these guys were already following me. So let's just lead them on over to the portal here. Only need one of them. But actually, I might actually take both of them. Might speed up the process a little bit. And just need to get them to follow me. Basically, I can just walk right through the portal, and then they should teleport. There we go. And let's go grab them on the other side. I might get hit once or twice. Shouldn't be a big problem. Yep, there they are. And let's put them in a cart. Nice and easy. And then I'll send them on their way. And then they should just get sent right into there and start turning all those villagers. All right, and here they come. This should actually be pretty fun to watch. So come around the corner, get sent up here. And this should actually be a nice little chain reaction. It's like our own little zombie movie right here. Might take them a second to turn the first one because they like to run a lot. But once it starts going, should not take very long at all. Come on, you can do it. Oh, it looks like, nope, none of them are turned yet. Oh, there's one. And then it should start getting exponential after this point. There we go. Look at him run. I shouldn't be enjoying this as much as I am, but I'm definitely enjoying this. All right, it's definitely taken a minute or so longer than I expected, but we're now reaching critical mass, and basically, these any villagers left, they're done for. This is unmanageable, and just one or two left that are being crowded. Yep, look at him go. Oh, and that's all of them. All right, so we should actually be done here. And I already know this works. I'd actually have to test this with 2 players online because this one manages 1 player right there. So we would need a second player. So I'll probably check this in the very near future and just make sure that it works. But this should work just fine. I'm not too worried about it at all. So I downloaded a copy of the world because in single player I can use carpet mod to see if there are any problems. And I did a spawn mob caps, and you can see here the mob cap is currently 127, and it should be somewhere around 151, 152. I'm pretty sure I put a couple extras in here. And that means not all of these guys are counting towards the mob cap. And it took me a little while to figure out what's going on, but I'm pretty sure it's the guys who have picked up items. So we had one that had a piston here. He should be back there. There's quite a few of them that are holding items. And I'm not sure what I can do about this, because if I kill them, then they will drop the item and somebody else will pick it up. And I actually tried curing them, and basically the same thing happens. They drop the item and somebody else picks it up, and the mob cap stays the same. And I'm not really sure any other way. We thought about like putting hopper minecarts in there with them to pick up the items when I cure them. And I don't know how I could ever get those hopper minecarts out of there. So I'm not sure what I can do about it. The only thing I can think is, to go back in time and be very careful when I removed all the rails up here, because this is all rail stuff. This is all pistons and glass blocks and rails and stuff that they're holding. They weren't holding any items until I removed all this stuff up top. So, yeah. If you're doing this yourself, definitely make sure, be very careful. And prevention is definitely the best way to avoid this kind of a problem. And just make really sure that you don't remove the blocks up top of them. For now, though, 123 is enough for 1 player. And, it's almost enough for 2 players. If we had 2 players online, 13 mobs being able to spawn, probably wouldn't be too bad. But I do want to fix this at some point in the near future. All I can think to do is maybe just leave them there and add another cell with like 15 or so more villagers, and then we would be fine. It's a little unfortunate to leave mobs that aren't counting towards the mob cap. That would be causing a small amount of lag. So I'd rather get rid of them, or, just find some way to get them to drop their items. But I don't know of any way to do that. If you guys have any ideas, I would definitely welcome them, because I do want to fix this. In the Nether, by the way, the mob caps is at 151, which is exactly the number that I would expect. So apparently these sword guys don't count. It's just the ones that have picked up items, and you can see I haven't actually removed the rails up here. There are a few blocks there that might be kind of hard to remove without zombie villagers picking them up. But, if we get 1 or 2, it's not going to put me under the necessary mob cap. But still, I'd rather avoid that. But it definitely demonstrates that that was the problem. So we upgraded to 1.16.2 between episodes, and that actually fixed a bug here where we were having some piston lag. And you can actually now see the pistons, and this machine actually, I think it's actually faster. There is one issue I'm having where leaves are pushing me around. So you're supposed to be able to, according to Fallen Breath, you're supposed to be able to use this trapdoor if you open it and then shut it while you're standing on it. It's supposed to keep the leaves from pushing you around, but somehow it keeps having me pointing into dropper. I don't know what's going on there. I shouldn't be pointing at any droppers. The only thing I can think of, because there's only a dropper right there, and right there. And if I point it in the dead middle of this block, it should never point me into dropper. Let's do this again. So I don't know what's going on here, but the tree farm is a lot faster than it used to be. So yeah, I can't AFK here right now. I don't know if this will get fixed in the near future, but it does produce logs at a very fast rate, so I don't think it matters that much. I don't know what's going on here. It's very strange. But now that we've upgraded to 1.16.2 and the piston lag is fixed, that was what was holding us back. We were going to work on a mega tree farm a few episodes ago, and the piston lag was causing big issues. Basically, the tree farm wouldn't have worked. But now that it does work, we can actually start building that. I don't think we're going to build that right away, because Now that we have the mob switches working, I think I want to work on a shulker farm in the next episode instead. But in the very near future, look for that mega tree farm. That should be a fun one as well. So one big downside to upgrading to 1.16.2 is that the pigment gold farm that we set up in the last episode is no longer working, or at the very least it's working at a much reduced efficiency. The issue is that they made a change to how portals are calculated, and we're not sure if it's a bug or not, or if it was intentional. There's a bug report out for it, so we'll have to wait and see. But it's a pretty big change, and they probably should have talked to the community first before making such a dramatic change. This will actually have implications all across the way that people use portals. It's just super noticeable right here. We'd actually have to set up portals that are much further away, and then the pigmen would despawn, and they basically, with the way they're calculated right now, this farm wouldn't work at all. And it's super unfortunate because we spent quite a while working on this, and we didn't even really get a chance to use it because we needed more shulker boxes in order to use it properly, and now it doesn't work anymore. I mean, if that's what happens, if they decide to keep the change permanent, we'll roll with the punches, but I'm really hoping this gets fixed. And then we got another downside of upgrading. Iron farms, or at least a lot of iron farms, are no longer working, and I'm not sure exactly what they changed or why, but as I understand it, there's a villager. He's just okay. That might be part of the problem. But Nembom already has a fix in place for this farm. Yeah, there's villagers that have gotten out of several of these cages. That's interesting. That's probably part of the problem, isn't it? I hadn't even noticed that. Yeah, interesting. All right, well, it is what it is there. But as far as I understand, Nimbom's fix is actually that we have to rebuild the whole thing anyways. Right now, we've got a whole bunch of chests over here. I think this is 50 double chests of iron ingots filled all the way to the top. So this should be over 5 double chests of iron blocks once we convert them. So we're doing all right for right now. So I'm not in a super big hurry to move it, because the idea is if we got to rebuild this, I'm not putting it back in spawn. I want to use a chunk loader now that we have chunk loaders, so that the chunk loader will actually turn off when the storage is full, so that it's not keeping the system loaded when it's just spitting out iron and it's just sitting on top of a hopper. But again, not in a super... We might actually tear this down for now and then just worry about that later. We'll see what happens, but it's kind of unfortunate that we're going to have to move it, but it is what it is. I'm still not entirely sure why they made a change here. I was hoping to at least get started with the shulker farm in this episode, but I ended up having plenty of content just from finishing up those 2 mob switches. So I'm going to package this up and put this one out a few days earlier than I might have otherwise, and hopefully we can get a shulker farm episode out fairly soon as well. But if you're really interested, you can check out, I did a live stream a couple days ago where we went through the creative process of building the shulker farm. We had a lot of fun doing it, so you can check that out if you want. But until then, I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you again real soon. Bye now!